In today's video, we're going to be talking about maintaining slow, intentional living during ruts. Let's get right into it. Okay, so I just wanted to start off this video by saying that my energy is going to be pretty low in this video because I am actually going through a rut right now. And so the timing is just purely coincidental, but I did also want to get this video out because somebody had asked me this question via DM and I put it on my to-do list and I wanted to make sure that I got this video out for that person. So just a thank you to that person for sending a message and being super transparent about, how to live slowly when you're having a hard time, when you're struggling, when you're in a rut and you simply don't have the capacity within you to do it. I totally understand. That sentiment resonates with me and I am currently struggling with that right now. So hopefully this video is going to be helpful not only for you, for that person that asked, and for anybody else who's feeling the same way, but for myself as well because I do really need it right now. And I do apologize that the energy is off. I am going to try my best to be as peppy as I possibly can, like I do in my other videos. But let's jump into these tips. I have 5 tips exactly to share with you. So the first one is that rest is really, really powerful and really, really necessary. I think when, at least for myself, I'm such a high achieving type of person. I want to make sure that I'm like always on the go, always completing tasks, always checking things off of my to-do list. For me, that makes me feel good. And when it comes to my slow living practices, that also kind of applies because I want to make sure that I'm consistently practicing my slow living practices, if that makes sense. It's also important to remember that rest is 100% necessary in your slow living journey and just in your lifestyle, period. I think in society, we tend to forget that rest is so necessary. And it's not only necessary to have rest and give your body that actual rest that it needs, it also helps you in the long run because it refuels you, it helps you reset, not just physically, but mentally. And when you're having a really, really rough time, all your body wants to do, all your mind wants to do is pretty much nothing. And so I think you should lean into that. I'm trying my best to lean into that as well. I know I'm doing a video while I'm struggling right now, but I'm trying to lean into rest as much as possible because I know I need it and I know my mind needs it more than anything else. And once I get past this rest stage, I just know that I'm going to feel 10 times better because I did that. I gave that to myself, if that makes sense. It will make you more productive in the long run. And I don't mean productive in the sense of completing tasks and crossing things off your to-do list, although it will definitely help with that. I do mean productive in the slow living sense as well. Okay, the second tip is very similar to the first one, but moving forward, take frequent breaks. So right now, while rest is absolutely necessary, it's sort of like an emergency situation right now if you're struggling. But moving forward, when you're not in that emergency mode, in that fight or flight mode, remember to still take your frequent breaks because those breaks are going to help you once again in the long run, especially when you're leading up to a point in your life where you may end up in a rut again, or you may end up in a situation where you're struggling again. You never know when those things will pop up. Sometimes it just happens. Most of the time it just happens. So if you are being proactive about it in your regular day-to-day, even when you're doing your best, it's going to help you in the long run. Think about it very, very long term. I know it's super hard, and I know a lot of people struggle with thinking about things in long term because we're living in the now and everything's happening right now. And so there's just no time to think about what future you is doing in a week's time, in a month's time, but give that to yourself, give that to your future self, and just remind yourself that future you is going to thank you for it because it is really, really impactful in ways you probably can't feel right in this moment, but it will help so much later on. The third tip is expressing gratitude, and this one is particularly hard for me right now in the midst of my rut because I don't know, something about this particular situation that I'm struggling with is making it hard for me to look at things in a more positive way, if that makes sense. And so sometimes it's really hard to express gratitude. Sometimes when you're having a really crappy day, or if you're having a crappy situation you're struggling with happen, it can be really hard to look at things in a positive mindset. It can probably feel impossible. It's really, really feeling impossible for me right now. Doing mindset shifts can really, really change the way that you look at life. And I mean it in the way of a flip of a switch. It can really be that impactful. And I think that's why it's so hard for me right now, because I know that if I am able to do this mindset shift, I would feel 10 times better. But there's something just blocking me and not allowing me. I think it's just the particular situation that I'm in right now. It's just really blocking me and making it hard for me to express gratitude. But you can see how impactful that can be. And I guess in my situation, I can look at things in a very negative sense because I'm not feeling good, and I'm not feeling good about the situation, and I'm not feeling good about the rut that I'm currently in. Like I said, I just want to keep going. I just want to get better. I just want to be in that good space. And so it's so hard to think about it in a positive sense if I'm just holding on to the negative sense of it, right? Practicing mindset shifts throughout your lifestyle will help a little bit here in this situation. And if you haven't been doing that in the past, I would just try to do your best. I know this sounds like a really crappy piece of advice in the moment, but do your best to try and shift your perspective on a particular thing that you are stuck on. I like to use the example of I get to live this life. And I think a lot of us, when we're struggling, we sometimes think like, why am I living this life? Why is my life this way? Why couldn't it go this way? Why couldn't this situation be better? Why couldn't I be better? Things like that. And instead of looking at it in that way and sort of just like beating yourself up about things not being perfect, instead try your best to shift your mind into thinking, I get to live this life. I get to make mistakes. I get to learn these lessons. I get to experience love. I get to experience X, Y, and Z, and that's a beautiful thing. It can be a hard thing, but it is a beautiful thing, and that's the nuance of life. Okay, moving on to a much more chipper tip, but hobbies or socializing or experiences. Try to prioritize that during your ruts. I think, once again, we fall into this hole of thinking of like, how can we get back on track? How can we get back to normal? How can we do this, this, and this? And once again, we're trying to instead be a little bit more gentler with ourselves in terms of rest, in terms of being kind to ourselves, in terms of thinking of things in a more positive outlook, no matter how hard that can be. But hobbies, socializing, and distracting is also a really fair and valid tactic to use when you're not feeling great. Hobbies are fun. Socializing is fun. Distracting yourself from the situation that you're struggling with can be a good break on your mind. And so I highly encourage you at least try one of the three, because it will inevitably refuel and re-energize you in some type of way. If we're really, really stuck on something and we're really, really struggling on something and we can't move forward, we need to find ways to help us move forward, because that is also a part of life. We have to keep moving onwards. And so these are fun ways that you can do that. Hobbies can be independent hobbies. It can be reading. It can be crocheting, whatever it is that you really, really enjoy doing. It can be super social. You can go to the farmer's market and have a chat with somebody in your community, or you can go to brunch with a friend, or you can go to brunch with a family member. And distracting yourself, like for me, doing this video and getting into my work is really distracting. And because thankfully I enjoy my work, it's distracting me in a good way. I feel good that I'm able to kind of move onwards in that sense. This is helping me dedicate some space and some time to healing, because I'm not stuck in that rut. I'm not stuck in that hole where I'm just digging myself deeper and deeper into despair. Okay, and then the last tip is to set boundaries. I like to throw this tip in with all of my videos because I think boundary setting has been super, super monumental and impactful. Why have I been holding my mug this entire time? Setting boundaries has been super, super valuable in my life as someone who's a people pleaser, as someone who is willing to give above and beyond to other people, but not necessarily to myself in most of my situations, my social situations. And it doesn't always have to be social. So what I mean by setting boundaries is making sure that you set boundaries with people. If there are people that are bringing you down, not bringing you joy, make sure you're setting boundaries there, but also with time, because we can give our time out to so many different things, to work, a task that we've been procrastinating, to, a work colleague, whatever it may be. Boundary setting with time is so, so important, because that time is your rest time. That time is your time to work on your mindset shifting. That time is your time to really, really reset, refuel, re-energize. And then boundary setting can also apply to things. So if there are certain things in your life that are not bringing you joy, say it's a cluttered space, say it's a club that you joined, but it's not actually bringing you joy, it's actually bringing you some anxiety. anything that falls into the space of this is not bringing me joy, it's time to set up some boundaries. And it doesn't need to be super strict. I personally needed to have them super strict because I knew myself and I knew that I would break those boundaries if I didn't keep them super strict. But you don't have to keep them super strict. Maybe that can mean like you still communicate with someone, but once they trigger a particular conversation or topic, that's where your boundary starts to get solid. Or when it comes to time, sure, you'll open up some time in this situation because you have the energy to do it, but in other situations, that boundary is set. So just play it by ear and try to figure out what the balance is for you and your lifestyle and what you know about yourself. Do a little bit of deep diving there and make sure that you set those boundaries up, because once again, that's another tip that will help you in the long run. You won't feel it necessarily right now. You'll definitely feel some gratification in the moment, but later down the line, your whole overall look in life is going to get much more positive. I promise you that. That is one thing that I learned last year and I did a video on and what have you for my birthday. And yeah, that was a really, really impactful one. So once again, I like throwing that tip in there. All right, friends. So this video was pretty tough to get through. I swear it was purely coincidental that I filmed this video at the same time that I'm also struggling. I don't like to show my worst self on the internet. I don't think anybody does. So I am being a little bit vulnerable here with my energy just being low and me feeling really, really crappy right now. But I do hope that this video helps you. It actually did help me a little bit going through these steps and talking through it and reminding myself of these things. I did actually write this list of tips a few weeks ago, so it was really nice to look back at it and remind myself of this as well. But I also hope that it shows that I also struggle. I also have bad moments, and while you may not see it on the internet most of the time, I am also with you there. I feel you, I hear you, I understand you, and I'm here for you. So if you have any other questions for me when it comes to slow living, or if you're struggling right now and you just need somebody to chat with, I'm always open. You can always comment down below, and if you want something a little bit more private, you can DM me on Instagram. I have the same handle everywhere, but thank you so much once again to the person that sent this question in. It actually did a lot of healing for me. I appreciate you. And I will talk to you in next week's video.